Hello, everyone. How are you doing tonight? It's Friday. One of my best songs by the Allman Brothers off the album Live at the Fillmore East was Stormy Monday. So, good evening to everyone. We're waiting for our guest to come on, and when she does, we'll certainly pull her into the conversation. But in the meantime, just thought I'd go ahead and get things started. So I've got like four things. Here she is. So hold on 1 second, please. And we will get our special guest in here. So give me a second. You know, when I'm driving the bus, it can get interesting. Hello, Laura. Hello, how are you?
Go.
There we go.
Okay.
Hey. They didn't get us this time.
Almost, because my toilet just started to, the back water for no reason just is gone. It's vanished.
Whoa.
Yeah, like it just did it on its own, and like all at the last minute. So I was like calling yeah, it's weird. So he's just.
That's weird.
Yeah, all the water just, it's not even in the back of the.
Well, that's a lot of pressure sucking something somewhere.
Yeah, just in the past 5 minutes.
Wow. Well, good evening and hello and welcome.
Always exciting.
Hey, listen, I promised our audience that this would be a enlightening hour of conversation, and it's already doing that. Oh, well, it's so good to see you. You know, we were supposed to have met about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And crazy things were going on. I just got to tell you, it was just, I don't know if the planets were aligning in a different directions, but it was very different. So it's good to see you.
Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, well, it wasn't shocking to me that things didn't work out 2 weeks ago, because, you know, energetically, things have been very strange.
Very active, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very.
Well, you know, you are, hello, Jennifer. Thanks all the moderators to the room, and we appreciate that. And the room is filling up. So I thought, Laura, maybe what you could do is give our audience some background on yourself. And then I already have questions from the audience as well. So they came in prepared, and I should have in the sovereign key is very interesting. Where did that come from?
Well, that's a big question, but ultimately, sovereignty over the earth, sovereignty of every being here, is basically what sovereign key is. So the key is also representative of keys.
Yes.
Acquiring the keys that have been ripped from us through either the complete amnesiac wash that has occurred over and over again, or through theft of soul, theft of body, theft of, you know, it's just been taken from us in so many different ways. So it really is a combination between being sovereign and holding the keys. And key itself means the earth. It means terra.
Yes. Okay. Boy, I'm listening to that and I am calculating in my mind. So let's tackle the first one. I love how you framed that, the wave of amnesia. One of the interesting things about Robert Spear's book, The Species with Amnesia, is that there seems to be this reoccurring thing about our species, is that we can't seem to remember the past.
Right.
What's up with that?
Well, what I can say about that is that there are always more than one thing happening at one time. It's never one simple answer, yet it is always one simple answer, because we are in many ways the epitome of the anomalies that we've created ourselves in all of the multiple levels of our existence. And we can be in existence at multiple places in one time, basically inhabiting everything at one time. So that's why the answers can be very complicated or extremely simple, but both are true. So the amnesia serves as happening through legal theft. When we abdicated our will after a very huge, colossal catastrophe that tore up the original body of Earth, of Tiamat, where every inhabitant remembered this, and it was stored in our memory genetically and spiritually and physically and on all astral levels. It actually altered the dimensional density of everything when that occurred, because our consciousness changed in that. And when our consciousness changed, everything changed. So when that occurred, the state of the beings that were here were in such desperation for survival. And for the first time, really, the sense of impending mortality was something that was introduced in a way that never existed before, in the measure of that type of catastrophic end. Because prior to that, we were much more integrated and there wasn't really an end. As well as our genes and our DNA would regenerate all the time. So when that occurred, the state of beings basically abdicated their will in that moment. And that's when everything was legally allowed to enter in.
Oh, well, okay. Let's see. This is getting very, very informative. So let's talk about the trauma. It seems like that this altered consciousness, this trauma that our ancestors, that we are their progenitors of,
Mm-hmm.
that and this is an interesting thing, because I can see where this can then have the tendrils that would go off and then begin to taint everything from that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that when we talk about Tiamat and its destruction, now I contend that the asteroid belt is the result of whatever that collision was, whatever that destructive force was. And
Absolutely. One of the remnants.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that Earth, now this is just my personal hypothesis, is that we're not of this planet.
No.
Okay, I'll let you take it from there. But that's what I think. And I think that's our struggle spiritually.
Yeah, I think in many ways it's our struggle, but what's become our planet, what's become our realm, is where all the work had to be concentrated. So essentially, when we decided to come here, I guess you could say, or when we were compelled to even be here, it wasn't the portion of Terra that we're on right now. This is only one part of the realm. There are many pieces, because after the catastrophe, the body was literally torn.
Ooh.
And most of the pieces are inhabited. So this is one piece, which creates a very interesting effect in terms of the being herself that was able to be the living real estate for us. And I feel that at the very beginning, this is where we had to go anyway.
Mm-hmm.
For this whole thing to happen, in order for us to return to the place where we originated.
You know, Laura, I just thought of something as you were talking. Now, I've read about Tiamat decades ago when it first came in, and there's been a lot of theories about how the asteroid belt came about. It never occurred to me to look at this. That was a life form that expired.
Right. That was a life form that was attacked.
Wow.
Yeah, in a huge war.
That's a huge psychic energy
Hmm.
that would be attached to our solar system, no matter
Exactly.
how we look at this.
Exactly. And it's alive. She's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought from the point of Gaia.
Hmm.
Wow.
Hmm.
What? Well, all right. So I'm going down this here rabbit trail already. You might as well continue to go down it. And I like it. So let's talk about that, because I think just from a planetary point of view, and that since we are integrated into this life form, which is called Earth,
Hmm.
that the death of a planet, a life form of that majesty.
Hmm.
Wow. I had
Hmm.
never even thought about that.
Yeah, she was massive, massive, beautiful.
Let's talk about
A
that a little
living.
bit, because, I think some of us sometimes almost have times when we're drawn by that in our super consciousness. We can't frame it, but
We see it all the time. It's all around us. We see vestiges of her living flesh everywhere. That's what the earth itself is made out of, and gems and everything. You're looking at petrification of the body.
okay.
So it's still alive in a different form.
All right. So
Yes. Yeah,
uh,
when she was split, it was no longer in the original body. And it was massive, massive, because the amount of beings that were on her at the point in time when that occurred, and that was split into pieces and generated realms everywhere.
interesting.
But it was a result of a huge, massive battle, a war.
And I'm getting downloads as we're talking, because this is interesting, because it becomes very relevant to the fact that there's a conscious that's even higher than us, than our species. And there is a hierarchy that I believe as we pass through,
Hmm.
that we will understand even more.
Hmm.
But go ahead.
Well, there's something that we lose sight of, because our dimensional perception is just relegated to this experience. And through the washing of our memory in the amnesic membranes of what has been removed constantly, we are reintegrated into the same perceptions that have created a co-creation of reality, right? So what we forget is that initially, just as you said, there are higher life forms and there's like tiers, right?
Hmm.
If you can imagine it, a drop of rain is one universe, and then another bigger drop of rain is a bigger one on top of that one, and then there's a bigger one on top of that one. We have an infinite amount of dimensional realms and universes that are
Yes.
literally stacked up on one another, and we are just a tiny, tiny little speck of a universe that is right in the center of all of this larger pearls, if you will.
Okay. Yep. I see that. All right. You said something about when we came here, that there was an exchange, or we surrendered.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because I'm becoming, for the last year, and it's becoming more and more intense, is that we got to get an understanding of what happened here.
Hmm. Yeah,
Because,
absolutely.
yeah, so let's talk about this.
Prior to this all happening, everyone innately retained who and what they were and where they came from, and their abilities, and the unlimited nature of their spirit and body. Um, we have been moving through variations of that experience in the body experience, because the body is the key, right?
Right.
A lot of the people make the mistake of thinking that when you focus too much in the spirit, that's where everything is. It is true, but it is through the body that work has to be done. It's through the experience of manifesting. So at the time when the catastrophe occurred and the fear lodged in, the terror was so immense and so great that that's when they naturally called out for something to come in and help. But that's a really broad scope, because when you're
Mhm.
calling out to something, but you don't even know what's coming in, I mean,
How do you know if it's friend or foe?
right? And chances are, if it's been waiting,
Yeah.
this isn't going to be your friend.
I think that was Hawking's whole thing was like, listen, we're sending out satellites, probes with, hey, here we are. We shouldn't be doing that. If an intelligent species
No,
was there, they would be camouflaging themselves, hiding themselves.
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it, because what is going to be lying in wait is going to be something that is big enough, sentient enough, that they're going to know that this is happening, and they're
Hmm.
just waiting. So they're on a whole different level of existence that we can't even imagine. Hence the archontic nature of the invasion, hence the all of it, the archontic, the demiurge, all of the battles of all of these beings that came from other realms or other universes and found themselves in the biggest real estate going.
I people have a problem with that, Lord, because they can't accept the fact that well, where was God?
Mhm.
Where was this protector, this savior?
That came after.
That's my point.
Yeah, that wasn't there before.
It wasn't there to stop the train wreck,
Right.
and the train wreck happened. And I'm still contending that one of the best sci-fi authors that I have read is F. Paul Wilson.
Okay.
And if you ever get a chance, read his book, Night World.
Okay.
I'll guarantee you it will be one of those that it will keep you up.
Okay.
The point that he came, and it really enlightened me over, I guess I read that 20 years ago, was the concept of deities,
Mhm.
forces that we always want to contend them into this box that they have feelings. They're either good or they're evil.
Mhm.
And this is weird, folks. So I wrote this a couple of days ago. I know you can't see it, but I'll read it to you. Two forces existed before there was anything.
Yeah.
When they met, their energy produced what we call the aspect of love. This was the creative force that gave birth to the creative element of what we live in.
Mhm.
Now, having said that, the concept that there are deities that really don't care.
Mhm.
I mean, they're not good, they're not evil.
Yeah.
They just are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's the same as an insect.
Ooh,
It's the same as
good.
the same.
High five. Excellent. Yes. Yes. Let's talk about that.
We are the ones that attribute this dualistic system where something has to be either evil or good. And this is the problem. This is the
Yes.
problem that gives all
Yes.
the power away to everything and anything outside of you. Anything and everything that is not you will be manipulating you if you continue to play that game of, you know, dual worlds of, I'm going to be on this side and then I'm going to be on that side and you're going to be my enemy or you're going to be my friend or, you know,
People in the chat room, you're all getting this. It's growing. I mean, we got 175 people in here. Listen to what this enlightened, wise teacher is saying. Now, Lord, this is you are hitting, I think, the key crux, the key,
mhm,
indeed, that sovereign key that so many have been looking for. It's not a question of good or evil.
no,
It's a
no,
question of the sovereignty of who I am.
exactly.
Go on, please.
It has no place. I mean, the kingdom that we live in, when we look at the kingdom of the insect or of the birds, of the mammals, whatever. I mean, there is simply the experience of their experience
Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
body. And if it's going to be manifested in this state, that's where it's at.
Yep.
Wherever it's at is where it's at. But
Bingo.
there is all of the what we're seeing, the culmination of everything we're seeing is a result of this polarity chess game that has checkmated everybody.
Now, I know you don't know this because, I haven't really talked that, but we've emailed back and forth. But I did a video about 3 months ago called Checkmate.
Yeah.
Dealing exactly with what you said.
Yeah. Well, it's a checkmate system. It's a chessboard. So if you look at all of the symbolism that the Masons have, everything is always on this chessboard.
Mm-hmm.
Black and white squares.
Mm-hmm.
The pillars.
Yep.
And you're checkmated.
Yeah.
So your mind, they use your mind against you so that you checkmate yourself, essentially. They just have to give you the proper props.
It's the ultimate mind coitus.
Right. And they'll give you all of the stimulation you need in order to do so, including the concocting of wars and all of this garbage that is just false. It's all false. It's all an act, really, backed up by actors. And then they look at the casualties, the population that is rendered the serfs, their slaves, to operate on behalf of those lies and that orchestrated falsehood, which is just a game.
Yeah.
And they'll go in and do it. So this whole thing, when you look and you study wars and you study the propaganda involved with the media, and then you must save and peace, and it's all.
Yeah.
So this is one example of a multitude. It's 360 degrees around us. It doesn't matter. You step out of your place, you'll see something that has everything to do with this.
Yeah.
It's literally the way that they created and founded and structured society at large, in every angle, in every pyramid system.
And I just want to say something on this because I'm a studier of history. And, as you can see behind me on my whiteboards, I have framed out the timelines of where we know that humanity existed. Something happened. We regressed almost to zero, sprang back up. So how's this going? What you just said, though, about the structure of society is this. My point is 66,500 years ago, we have the Sumerian tablets that detailed their social structure. It's the exact same one we have today.
Precisely.
Laura, well, that means that we are not progressing.
No, we're devolving.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is a state of devolution.
Now,
and I keep saying this is not ascension.
Ooh, let's talk about
it's a
that.
big one.
Yeah. Now we're on sacred ground.
Well, and just to back up something, which is very fascinating because, as above, so below, the mitochondrial DNA scientifically can be backed up to 6,000 years ago.
Dun, 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 dun.
It ends there. It begins there. That's where there's nothing that we have. Now we know that this has been a series of resets. So They will reset something, they'll catastrophize the entire realm and then reset it. So this dome that we're in has experienced many cycles. But this last one is according to DNA, mitochondrial scientific data, it goes to 6,000 years.
Yep.
From, quote, the Anunnaki Eva, the Anunnaki Edenu,
Well, I did a whole program on the fact that, what we found in the pantheon of the Sumerian poetry and their pantheons of gods, Enki and his mom, made us in the creation chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been many different versions. In fact, she really screwed up so bad that they really didn't know what to do with the species that she had created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had to do it again.
Oh, and apparently, and then you get into the Kabbalah.
Mhm.
Ancient Hebraic legend says that the magicians that were of the Hebrew tribes,
Mhm.
they could actually conjure up golems.
Golems. That
Yeah,
is true. That is a true. That is a true story. They
yeah,
can do this. This type of magic has been in existence from the beginning, and it came with them. So
yes, yes, it did. Yeah.
the movie Prometheus. This is one of the things I loved about the movie Prometheus, because Prometheus reads more of a documentary.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
It's
of
most
course,
accurate, I think, on the genetic
right,
aspect. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So
Well,
we see
let's
that
talk about this.
yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
we see this platform that's they're utilizing, and they've been utilizing for years and years. I mean, since the advent of the television, they've been using sci-fi fantasy mostly and
Hmm.
comic books
Yep.
to put the truth out. But
Ye-
what they were utilizing for the quote adult mind was the garbage,
mhm.
total complete brainwashing, and yet they were putting because they have to put the truth out. Um,
Now,
and
by the way, little asterisk to that.
mm,
Listen, folks, what she just said is a fact. I mean, we know this is that we know they have to have permission and they have to show us what they're about to do. And I love how you point it. People don't understand about television and its impact on us because every program you watch is just that. It's a program.
it tells you what to think and how to think,
Yeah.
how to perceive.
Yeah.
It molds and shapes literally what you will consider as a possibility in your co-creation, so that you are maintained well within
Yes. Yes.
the box of
Yeah.
the I tell you what to vision. Television. I'll tell you what to vision.
Tell the vision.
Hmm.
And so there is a belief that says that the indoctrination that I contend that every one of us have taken the mark. We have taken the genetic mark of this deity, of this force, whatever it is, because in order to participate in this net, which is really enter the net, it's internet, is that I have to have an IP that's an individual prison number, individual permission number, however you want to address it.
Hmm.
And so now we have the privilege to be able to communicate because I contend that this deity doesn't give a damn, doesn't care. It
It's
doesn't care.
food. It's a resource.
Yeah. And it's
Like
using
we're the food. We're the resource.
that's it. We're the resource.
Yeah.
We're the ones that are supplying what
Yeah.
it's doing. And there are some sociologists in it that will tell us that I think we're on the verge of another collapse.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it.
Well,
We are.
where do we go? I mean, the thing is, if we don't ascend, to what point does the integration lore become so great that we no longer have the ability to think for ourselves?
Well, there's the opposite happening right now. So what you're getting is you're getting a divide between the frequencies of consciousness. And that divide is literally, on the one half, those of us that are breaking through the membrane of control, or the membrane of the dome. It's no longer, it's having a really hard time keeping our consciousness in this old construct. Even with the recent upload to the new server, the new quantum server, in order
Yeah.
to bring in this more sophisticated version of simulated reality, it's still very difficult for them to be able to box in our consciousness because we're moving literally out of it.
Yeah. Okay.
So what's occurring is that it is basically causing such dissonant frequencies between the fabric itself that it's tearing it apart. So you're going to be seeing a split.
Yeah. I think that's what we are seeing.
And this is where it's going to be happening. In the negative aspect of that split are those that continue to hold on to the old construct and don't want to go out of it or leave, because if you don't, you're going to be trapped in that, and you're going to live out your co-creation along with this beast thing that has taken over, and all of the, the forces involved with the entire nature of what we are living in inside of this realm. It is controlled by various forces who I feel are all one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at the archontic force, the demiurge, you're looking at the Orion queen.
I've said they've never left.
So they've never left. No, of course not. And the gods that, have retained their godhood in those other states that, have a vie in us.
Yeah.
So if we do not consciously step out of it all, and by that I mean you have to be willing to let go of perception, because I'm just going to say it, I'm 100% of our perceptions are all manipulated.
I love it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're not talking 90% to 10.
Yeah.
We're talking this whole thing, this co-created reality has been a theft of life. So we're living something else.
You see, you are just, I got to just tell you, high five. I want you back on. And here's my point. I'm trying to tell everyone, and we've got over 200 people in here now. And many of the people who have been with me on my channel know this. What has bothered me, Laura, bothered my spirit, is that when I was shown what has taken place, it kind of freaked me out. I had to go off for a little bit, because when I realized how nefarious and how subtle this thing came about, that I contend it doesn't care what God you believe in.
No.
But, and what I've told people, show me another time in our recorded history where literally every human being is tied into the net.
Mm-hmm.
I've studied history, Laura. I can't find it. And when you've got 7.5 billion people that are tied into this, that is a hell of a lot of energy, girl.
Yeah, that is creating an entirely different way
Yes.
of life.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's just a much more sophisticated, augmented version of reality, so that it can invade you on a deeper level.
Someone asked me to, right before we started on this, could you talk about the new Predator?
Oh, yeah.
So someone is a fan.
The new Predator, they're all around you. It's something.
Well, let's talk about it.
Something that, let's just say, certain Black projects have been working on this for generations, and they've been working on creating some kind of version of a pathological creature, so to speak, that is not a psychopath per se. The psychopath is the genetic aberrant variation of something that has gone wrong from lineage.
Okay.
So what you're seeing is an actual project that was taking place where they were utilizing not only technology, but you could say portal biological technology in order to create a very dangerous counterfeit biological predator that is far more dangerous than a psychopath on a far different level.
Holy crap.
And it's in the design of it is, I started witnessing this when I was 9 years old, and so I started paying attention, and then I started following the trail to see what was going on, because I could see that there was advancements with each generation, and it was getting phenomenally interesting. And what I discovered was that this whole project was because that they knew that there needed to be something significant enough to be a powerful counterfeit to reality, to the reals, so that that could step into the spiritual platform
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
and target the reals, those that I call the reals. And this was the design, because see, a psychopath is just much too evident. A psychopath
Mm.
is it can be a real person who's very damaged and very split. This is something entirely different. And it has an agenda, and it is a scout. It is a spiritual scouter.
Whoa.
And they have utilized what I believe to be the essence or the DNA or the biology or the spiritual soul of what I would call an enlightened beings from before, when the fall occurred, beings that came in as emissaries, or what others would term as fallen angels, which are not fallen. They're just, I just can't stand the word angel.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
That,
like it either.
but
I recognize they exist.
like celestial beings who came
Yeah.
in with the power, or the
Yeah.
original power to help, essentially. But so many of these beings, I believe, were actually they were tricked into coming,
Mm.
and many of their essence has been stored. And just as we see through ancient history, where you see the ancient Sumerians and the ancient Egyptians learned it from the Sumerians, where they would, capture not only the organs,
Yep.
but the soul pieces.
Yeah.
And so we can reanimate that with technology. We can rebuild whatever. I mean, we could MRI build,
I think the Egyptians and
synthetic.
I think the Akkadians all the way back, they actually had that technology.
They totally. Gilgamesh
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
one of the most
Absolutely.
brilliant examples of that. And I spoke about
Precisely.
that before, because, his guardian was one of these
Mm.
synthetic biological
And
beings.
everyone should read the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's a lightning journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
So,
Go ahead, because it here's my point. We have a resident physicist,
mhm,
Dr. Claudia Albers comes on next Friday night. We're having Dr. Richard Allen Miller. So we have a particle physicist and a theoretical physicist.
wonderful.
It is, and it's teaching us all a great deal.
Hmm.
So here's what I know, Laura, is that when you concentrate psychic energy, of which we generate 20 watts of electricity. 7 billion, let's just say 7 billion people are plugged into this.
Hmm.
Someone is feeding off that energy, Laura, and no
Absolutely.
one asks us the question, who?
There's no doubt about it. And it's elaborate. You know, there were different versions of this technology that weren't dirty in the past, in the previous cycles, not this past 6,000 year cycle, but previously there have been other examples of a cleaner version of this, which was much more, I guess you could say, much more crystalline, pure crystalline, not the
Okay.
virus crystalline. This is a dirty version. So just like you have morphine is the dirty version of dilaudid,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
This is what this is. It's a technology that is netting your soul.
Spot
And that's
on.
by design.
Yeah,
So
I believe that.
when you concentrate, because we are all creators, therefore we are co-creating. Now we're co-creating something so massive. If anybody does any kind of energy work on their own, or if they do kinetic work, or it can be really fascinating just one-on-one. So you can go and take the body and you can do energy work, and you'll start seeing like the body move.
Now you do this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll see and it freaks people out sometimes, because they can't believe that that your energy can move so much. But that's one-on-one. So, and you can also get it so that when you take your energy by somebody, you can, and I had a chiropractor who's an energy worker as well, who's fascinating. He studied Qigong. Anyway, so he would show me what he could do with and he would do it on me, and he taught me some of this. But he could put his hand by a body, and the body would follow it. Like you couldn't control your body would go to where his hand was pushing you, and you could be on a 45-degree angle, and he could hold you there.
Mm-hmm.
So one-on-one, all right, one-on-one, unlimited power. Now,
that's how I heal my wife. She actually can feel the heat emanating from.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So if one-on-one, one is unlimited, you just multiply 7 billion. I'm not convinced there's 7 billion people, though, because I think they lie about the population, because they can easily tell us demographically that only this much and these, but it's all
wonderful. How do we know that there's 7? There
I
could
don't think there
probably be about 7 million of us, but yeah, I agree with you. But still, that amount of power being focused, concentrated 24/7. I've never seen anything like that in my lifetime.
No. But okay, so I'm going to explain something. I don't know if I've gotten a chance to speak about this before, but okay, so now this is like the dark version of the universe that we're in.
Okay.
Okay. And I've spoken about what happened where we were basically jumped into a new universe when we were uploaded to a much more sophisticated version of this simulation. Because of, this is an overlay over the real one, right? So now it is like the dark aspect, the dark version, and we're almost living through the dark night of our soul, of our, inverted reality.
I love that.
And as a result, you're getting all of these predators that are coming in and have been doing so from the beginning, and basically eating us, right? So now ask yourself, where are these larger predators coming from, and are they all biological creatures? Well, no, not really. There's artificial biological creatures and artificial creatures. There's all manner of things, right? Now, because this is the inverted aspect of the dark night of our soul reality that we're in, I mean, this is really just, it's a dark hologram. The creatures that are here are also that inverted aspect. What happened in the original, when the split occurred from their own gnosis, from their own, from the creator, I guess you could say, is that they were cut off from source the moment that the split occurred.
Okay.
So in essence, that was, they fell to their own inversion, and therefore a universe of that inversion had to be created. But when that occurred, they were no longer connected to the source of creator, the source of everything that we are.
All right. Yep.
Being cut off from that meant that the Ouroboros system had to come inside this inverted reality. The Ouroboros is basically something that consumes itself to stay alive. So that's the only way they could survive. They only had the finite amount of energy that they had upon the disconnect. Upon the disconnect of source, that's all they had. Therefore, they had to find, as predators, a new source that was still a part of the ultimate source, which we are.
Yeah.
And so this is what happened. And that is the reason why they have created literally realm systems, matrix systems of feeding, where we're being utilized for our power without even knowing it. So in essence, you're not even consciously aware of your psychic energy that is actually being harnessed.
I'm going to share a vision I had today. I was out doing some things, and I saw a very elderly person, well into their 80s. And immediately I saw, this is going to sound weird, but I saw that soul, I saw his life energy. And this is what I heard. The day will come where we may begin to understand that when we're in this youth, When we're in these bodies where the spirit energy is strong, Laura, that we can come together and put aside everything you just talked about, everything that's feeding off of us, and begin to channel that life energy into a singularity of purpose and thought for humanity.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is more akin to our spirit, to it,
Yeah.
to what we are outside of all of this pre-mandated perception brainwashing.
Yeah.
So, and if we could do that, we will create that, and these forces won't be able to have access. We will bar them out.
Now, I'm a big believer that why I'm in this human shell, this bodysuit, that I have this unique ability that spirits don't have. And that is I can speak. They can't.
Yeah.
That gives me a tactical advantage.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to share something. Allow me, because we're going to go over to your website, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah.
So, folks, one of the things that drew me to you, Laura, was the fact that you had taken the time, and can you see this? Laura, can you see your
Yeah,
website?
I can.
Okay. Is that we have to take back the consent that we have given, whether it has been conscious or unconscious. Can you talk a little bit what this is beautiful. I just got to tell you, this is probably one of the best gifts to mankind of our species that I know of.
This is this work is a collaboration of various people who over time have put this all together, and essentially it's for everyone, because this is sort of the beginning work of what we have to do in order to start taking back our sovereignty and revoke everything that we have been a part of, whether it's through this life or all the other lifetimes, whether it's through even other experiences in other planets or planes
Yes.
or realms, because even through the Orion Wars, many people came from other places, but it was still agreements of entrapment. It was still a part of this agenda that we're still living out. We're still living those wars out.
Yeah, I don't think it ever stopped.
It didn't stop. Yeah.
No.
So this is a collaboration of many things, and a lot of what, and this is a work in progress, because you can always keep adding to it.
Mm-hmm.
Literally go through everything that you have experienced in one way or another and find pearls to include in it. So this kind of thing is never going to end. It just keeps expanding.
I have to say, in my past life, in my religious faith, I belonged to a part of a denomination that believed in the name it and claim it.
Yeah.
That we took that literally.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because what I began to see was that the power of my words speaking, they don't return unto me void.
Yeah.
But they return back that which I have spoken.
Absolutely. The spoken word is very, I mean, look at the Bible. I hate to,
Yeah, no, it's a fact.
but the Bible, and the word became, they talk
Flesh
about,
and dwelt among us.
right.
Yeah,
And so what they're saying is the word became flesh,
yeah,
and the breath became flesh.
yeah.
So the word is everything, because we speak it out, it becomes true.
Yes.
And that's also why, it does say, be careful what you speak, what comes out of your mouth. It also
Well,
says that, if there's light in your eyes, that you will be representative in body of your light.
yep.
If there's darkness in your eyes, if you're seeing darkness through your eyes, then your body will represent, you will be the embodiment of that darkness.
Spot on. I mean, even today, I can quote to you Mark 11:22 through 24. Have the faith of God. And if you would say unto this mountain, be you cast up and thrown into the sea, and not doubt in your heart, but believe that those things for which you say shall come to pass, you shall have them.
Exactly. Yeah. And also with that, wasn't there a verse that said, you know, if you have faith, you look at that mountain, you have faith, you can move it.
Yeah, literally. I mean,
Literally
and
move the mountain.
yeah, yeah,
That's exactly it. And
yeah.
in those days, he didn't wasn't the verse, in those days you shall see, or something to that effect. So in these those days, he's referring to these days. This
Yeah,
is the power that we're getting back because it's part of our memory. The battle is about our consciousness.
it is.
Declarations to
It
revoke
is.
agreements of entrapment have to do with us gaining back our memory and our sovereignty through the memory, because the battle is in consciousness. If you have given away your consciousness, you've given away your soul, your spirit. You have given and abdicated that.
You see, Laura, I am absolutely just excited what you're saying because you see, I believe we can reclaim that memory.
Yes,
On my
totally.
radio show last night, I went into detailed how the birth process, the actual birth process is, I have determined it's actually a rite of passage of death. Because the minute you are born through the passage of birth, which is only a one-way ticket,
Right.
you can't do it twice. If you try to do it to a human, it'd kill them. So we're born into this process. I'm telling you, we have to have that ability. We cannot be merely created for the life period. For
No,
myself, yeah, I'm 22,912 days old.
no, this is such a lie. It's
Isn't it
absolutely
though?
a lie.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
absolutely. And again, right, we can see in many texts, ancient texts, such as the Bible, it talks about at the beginning of days, they
Yeah.
lived to be 1,000 years, they lived to be, but in truth, what we have in our genes and our DNA is, prior to the compromisation and the hijacking of what's been inserted and removed, um, we didn't age. We had self-regenerating genes. We just continually regenerated.
Did you ever see that movie? Get out of my head, man. But that's where it is. I mean, I talk to my body. So, because, I got this thing where it says start talking to your genes.
Totally. And
They
that's
hold the secrets.
exactly.
Give them permission. The frequency, the harmonic of my voice should be the sovereign key to my genes,
Yeah,
Laura.
absolutely. Well, look at Dr. Emoto with his experiments with water, when he would
Yes.
talk to water and he would bless it, which I always say, bless everything, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't like to say the word bless because it's be less, but there's really nothing else I can.
Well, you see, I look at blessed as the also, in my interpretation, is empowered to prosper.
Yeah, I'm just like using their spelling word because
Hmm.
they're
Yeah.
always screwing with us with spelling. So
Yeah.
they do something like give us bless, but really if you see it, it means be less,
Be
be
less. Exactly.
the less of that. So we have to reinvent our language to reflect not the spelling of entrapment, but the actual emancipation of it, because it's really important that we start doing this as well. But I say, yeah, for lack of a better way of saying it, bless everything you eat, you drink. But Dr. Emoto's work was a reflection of what we are. We are the water. We
Yes.
are that. So if you can bless water and it changes into this beautiful, gorgeous, just dynamic living essence, this is what we are. So you have to start seeing yourself as that energetic sea where you love and take care of it and speak to it and say, reverse the aging, reverse and start getting used to working with yourself as a frequency and an energy. I
Boy, oh
mean, there was
boy,
an
oh boy.
experiment that I did, which was really interesting because I don't have gray hair or anything like that. And there was this one time I was getting like one streak, and I just started talking and reversing it, and it just went away.
You see?
So, but the same can be said when I had metastasized cancer and they said you have a few weeks to live.
Well, let's talk about that now. Folks, listen, there's a very, very dear subscriber who's been with me for almost from the very beginning who has received a report of stage 4.
Oh,
And I won't get any more to that. So let's talk about this because we're onto something here. This needs to be said, Laura. Let's talk about
yeah. Well, what happened was I went in and I had a live blood test done. And live blood is very interesting. If you have an option to do this test, it's really quite fascinating. So I went in to have this live blood test done. And the doctor, it was a team of 3, the one doctor taking care of it, noticed that my cells were very different in the sense that they had a lot more light around them and they were much more active. So they were like really wandering around all over the plate because it's in a little tiny and they were just, and he said, wow, this is really interesting because most of them are pretty, they don't move a lot, they just a little bit, and then there's always around a little ray of light around each cell, but not like what he was seeing. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, and I was thinking to my cells that were in the little dish, and I was communicating with them. I was like, why don't you just go running from side to side like this? And so he started seeing this in the electron microscope, that they started running side to side. And then he began to be fascinated, and the other 2 began to be fascinated. So they asked me, they said, can you talk to your cells again? I said, sure. So I went in and I started doing that. And they were literally writing down what they were seeing. Then they put me in a different room and they did the tests. So these tests continued. And they started getting other cells under the electron microscope. And some of the cells were cancerous, or they had diseases or parasites. And so they would put me in a room and they would just have me do what I do. And they couldn't explain it. They were like, I just don't know how you're doing this. So they began to experiment. And at around the same time, I was diagnosed with metastasized cancer, at this point from a tumor on my back. Now, a tumor in your back is very reflective of a lot of what goes on in my labbing. Sometimes when you've been hit, they put a lot of things in your body, and it's just, there's a lot of things that can happen. So that was one thing of many on the list that I, basically energetically transmuted. But I had received that it had already metastasized, and it was just, I had a few weeks. So they literally said to me, well, we can remove the tumor, but you have to get your things in order because you have like weeks. And when that happened, I was totally normal about it. My response wasn't reflective of the news I was hearing. And I think that had a lot to do with this, because I was very almost like, I was happy. I was like, thanks, I'll see you later. And I left the doctor's office in the hospital. And his name was Dr. Gray, interestingly enough. He was baffled, and he thought there's something really wrong. Like, she's either in severe trauma and shock,
exactly. It's
not
just in
getting
denial.
what I told her.
Right.
So he calls me at home that evening and says, I'm not quite sure you received the news. I told you. I'm like, no, I got it. It's cool. It's good. It's all right. And he goes, I just don't understand your reaction. I go, I don't think you need to worry about that. So
I love this.
there was just a state of mind. I don't know how to explain it, but there was a state of mind that it just didn't exist, or it just wasn't a threat. I wish I could put this down in a format for people, because I try to describe it. And I know that everything that we are and create is energy, frequency. It is literally electricity. It's electromagnetism. There is some incredible unison that happens in your universe. between everything that you are, body, mind, soul, spirit, emotion, that when you are swimming in that sea of reality of what you truly are, and that shimmering bright electrical light of being, that awareness, that consciousness, that things can't cling to you. You know, they can't haunt you. There's nothing, it's like they would come to you and then they just like slide off you because there's really nothing for it to stick to.
When you said the news was given to you by the doctor that this was basically, he was giving you a death sentence.
Yeah.
Most people would have immersed their whole selves into fear.
Yeah.
You immersed yourselves into joy.
Totally.
Absolutely. Cancer of that, because cancer is in its essence is dying. I mean, it's a death cell.
Yeah. But I didn't look at it like that. I didn't even look at it like it's a death cell. It's like, you know, and it's a creature in its own right. I give it what it is. I attribute something to it and it becomes that. I don't, you know, and I know as this was happening, he decided to test me. He said, I'm gonna test your like the tumor cells again. And I said, sure. And so it was negative again. I said, do it again because I'm just gonna play with my energy and my cells. And and this thing went back and forth like 7 times. He kept testing and it was positive then. And then that meant I didn't have it anymore. And then he was like baffled. It just freaked his mind because it got to the point where in the end, like I was flipping it back and forth. Yes, positive, negative, positive, negative. And in the end, he's like, I can't keep testing because it's almost like you're free. Like and I go, I've always been free.
It's interesting because there is a famous minister doctor back in 1909, Dr. John G. Lake, who was over in Africa when the bubonic plague was breaking out in Tanzania. And they had the hospital ship that was out there. And here's where all these doctors from around the world trying to, deal with the plague aspect. And they were bringing patients, dying patients, because they were trying to get the pathogen under control. Anyway, the point is, he told the doctors, he said, I will go in there and look, because they didn't want to go in there. And they said, well, no, you can't. You'll get infected. He said, I will challenge you. He said, bring me that bloody froth. And they did. They put it on his hand. And the froth was full of the plague. When it hit his hand, the samples afterwards, the plague was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. I love that story, Wayne.
Yeah.
Because it's true. And the only thing I can think of is what darkness can live inside the brilliance of light. Like you're the brilliance. So when creation happened and we came out of the deep and that first thought, it was all electric. It was like pure light. What darkness can reside in that?
None.
None.
I've told people here, and I'm teaching people here magic. And one of the things that I've been released to let people know, that when you have the haters, the trolls that come in and start writing negative things, we are now going to use our magic against them, because our magic is a magic of one that is love, one that's encompassing.
Yeah.
And no hate can attach itself or consume love.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and in fact, almost to the point where they don't exist.
Exactly.
So it's the best way to be. Because it's the same. It's when a person is haunted by something, it's when that something has an ability to invade you. So when people cling to their suffering, their pain, and I totally understand it. I mean, I walked through all that. I'm sure you've walked through that.
Yeah.
We all have in different ways, which are painful, but if you keep giving life to that, then that is what is going to be alive in you. So, and this is what I mean by, at some point, part of this consciousness accelerating and expanding out of this container and this containment system is that we drop the perceptions, and that means that we drop everything that is connected to it, all of the haunting, your fear of if you fear being abandoned and rejected, if you fear being alone, if you fear this, if you fear that, you have to drop it all. You literally have to decide, what do you want your life to be?
Bingo.
What do you want to create here? How do you want to live your life and create it? It's yours. It's nobody else's. So if you want to live under the shadow of a bad thing that happened to you, then that bad thing is going to be what literally is all around you, because it's in your mind all the time. And how can anything reflect differently when that is the only space that you're allowing?
Wow. That's exactly how it's coming out, filtered as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Powerful. We've gone way over. Would you come back on?
Would love to.
All right. And by the way, I'd love to have you on the radio show as well, because what you're saying is it's part of everything that we're learning in this journey here. And it's time. I love what your message is, because it is a message of strong medicine. It is a message of strong hope. And more important to me, it's a message of reality, a reality that we can create.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe one day we'll get smart, and instead of having hospitals, what we'll have is actually healing centers.
There won't be, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be.
That's what I believe. I think that's what the old ways they did. They had intuitives. I have the gift of healing, and there's many others like me, but there's others that have other gifts.
Yeah, exactly.
That
And all the gifts together complement and create a body of being of everything that we all live, because we are really one.
Yes.
We've never been separated. That's the illusion. So
Oh,
how wonderful is that? And a message to the trolls, that we do send them love.
yeah.
Journey, because everybody's wherever they're at, and again, right, that polarity, duality, that realm where you're being split into a white or a black square. I mean, we've all been casualties of that.
All of us have. It's part of the experience.
Yeah.
I just tell people, just love them. Right in their proxy. If, let's say, the person is XYZ, and I say, well, write back and say, well, XYZ really meant to say, I'm hurting inside.
Yeah.
I don't understand where I can find this love, because I don't like it that you guys got it.
Yeah, or I'm afraid. I'm afraid of
what the fear
of what you
factor.
represent. I'm scared.
Yeah. Oh, well, what? Now I know why there was this force trying to keep us apart in this message. And Jennifer, you should get in touch with Laura. Jennifer Collins, crypto truth seeker. She's I'm going to introduce you to a lot of people. So you have a message, my dear, that is one that needs to be heard. It needs to be taught. It needs to be understood. And I'm a great supporter of you. I just want to let you know that.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you for having me on. It's been amazing, and it went by like that.
Yeah, it was far out. I mean, it really was. I enjoyed this. This is, people say, well, why do you say far out? Because it really is far out. Well, listen, if we can leave our audience on laughter, then we have truly given them a gift. And you have given me a gift, Laura, because my soul is recharged, refreshed. I like the fact that in this journey, we're finding oases such as yourself, others in this room that have this, where we can go and get the nourishment we need and then carry on with our journey.
And expand it and grow it. Just like nature grows. This is what we're doing. We're growing our reality, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I've kept you longer, but we're going to have you back on. Thank you, everyone in the chat room. It's been full tonight. Thank you to all the moderators. There's just well over 200 plus people, so I can't say thank you to everyone, but thank you to everyone.
Thank you to everyone.
All right. And Laura, your website, which was up there for a good time, is sovereignkey.com, right?
Yeah.
All right. Folks, check it out. And do you have a YouTube channel yet?
Yeah, Sovereign Key.
Okay.
Sovereign Key YouTube. Same.
There you go, folks. Get over there, subscribe. This is like the proverb says, let me just get this right because I got two of them going here. Laughter doeth the heart as a good medicine, and a
Love.
word spoken at the right time, how sweet it is.
Beautiful.
Yes. And your word is a healing salve, I think, to so many of us, and this is what I appreciate. So thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Stay with me before we get out of here, and we'll go out. And folks, be good to yourselves. We'll see you again real soon.